begin. First of all, good morning and welcome to the second session of the third and final day of the Slop Conference. I'm Jahanvi and I'm a research associate at Belongg, and I'll be moderating this session. The Slop Conference has been convened by Belongg, which is a social innovation venture focused on inclusion, and Sinceriti, which is a recently launched blockchain-based proof of intention platform that seeks to center human authenticity and intention. This whole conference is anchored around the theme of AI slop, how it's manifesting in different areas of our lives, impacting us as individuals and also our society as a whole. And we've spent the last 2 days diagnosing the problem, tracing its historical roots. And now, what we want to turn to is something very interesting. This session is structured slightly differently from the others, and I'm very excited to get into that. Because GenAI has given us the capability to create content, to create words now, artifacts that sound very meaningful, but may not have a lot of substance behind them. And what we're sort of envisioning now is that commitment, authenticity become like hallmarks of what the antidote to slop even looks like. And that's the context of this session, which is portraits of true commitment, antidote, commitment being the antidote to slop. And I'll just take a couple of minutes to set the context for how we're defining this for anyone who's joined us right now. So the key question we're looking at is, in a world that's drowning in effortless performance where everyone is starting to sound very polished, words can be crafted easily, reports can be crafted easily, what does the slow, difficult, and profound work built on true human dedication even look like? And how can that be like a guiding force in us as for us as we move forward? So, like I was saying, we've spent a lot of sessions just like diagnosing, examining the problem of AI generated slop and how it's breaking down these signals of trust in our lives. This session is asking a slightly different questions about a different question around what would true human intention look like and what value can it add to us. Because Gen AI works best when it draws on a representative, richly detailed corpus of human knowledge. That's what it's drawing from when it also gives its outputs. So the quality of AI's outputs is directly downstream of the quality of the deep work that humans have already done to gather data, offer different lenses for interpretation, and capture the nuances of how communities actually live. And that's the essential starting point, the deep work of people on the panel that we have here, field workers, journalists, researchers, and community builders. That is the raw material that then gets used by these technologies for their outputs. And without that deep work, AI would essentially not have a lot of meaningful data research to draw on, and it ends up producing slop exactly when that underlying corpus is thin, it's generic, it does not reflect people's rich realities. But at the same time, we are still caught in a paradox because the very technology that depends on this deep work is also creating incentives and conditions that make that deep work very difficult to sustain, because we are becoming a culture of impatience. We want quick results, we want quick answers. Users demand immediate answers. Organizations want the 10-minute AI summary and not the 10-month field study. And we're seeing these very subtle shifts towards quickness over richness, toward like a neat, polished output over understanding that requires some friction. And if this continues, we are worried that this could create a slow starvation in our processes, that AI is also consuming an increasingly depleted knowledge base, while the fieldwork, the reporting, the community immersion that would renew it is quietly disappearing or not being incentivized enough because there's like a lack of patience of funding to support it. So, in such a scenario, how do we ensure that the deep, patient work of understanding the world continues to happen? And this is also a harder question around human nature, because does the availability of answers also change us? Is it causing certain psychological shifts in us? Does the demand for fieldwork reduce when AI can simulate outputs? And are we training ourselves in the next generation to accept quick answers? These are very big, broad questions to answer, and that's what we'll touch upon through a very different lens in this session. Um, we have two brilliant speakers will be talking to us about what true deep commitment can actually look like and how they have seen it through their own work. and I'm very honored to introduce them now. First off, we have Osama Manzar. Osama is the founder and director of the Digital Empowerment Foundation, which was established in 2002 with the mission of eradicating information poverty from India and the global south. A senior Ashoka Fellow, British Chevening Scholar, and International Visitors Leadership Program Fellow of the US State Department, Osama has spent over 2 decades building digital infrastructure for communities that the mainstream technology economy has left behind. Osama represents a model of commitment where the work is inseparable from physical presence and where decades of listening, adapting, and trying again and again create something truly meaningful. So, really glad to have you here. Welcome to the session. Next, we have Kavitha Iyer. Kavitha is an independent journalist and author with over 23 years of experience, the vast majority of which has been spent recounting and documenting the stories of those on the margins: slum dwellers, indigenous farmers, landless laborers, farm widows, and women in India's hinterland. She spent over 17 years across 2 stints at the Indian Express, serving as city editor and associate editor. Her first book, Landscape of Loss, The Story of an Indian Drought, won the Tata Literature Life First Book Award for Nonfiction. Built on 8 years of immersive reporting in Marathwada, which is one of India's most drought-prone regions, the book tells the story of agrarian crisis through the accounts of its people. So, our two speakers today represent something really rare and meaningful and essential for us to turn to. It's lives organized around the commitment to go where the truth is, stay long enough to understand it, and do the painstaking work of bringing it back in forms that can change how people see the world. So, like I mentioned, we'll take the next 30 minutes in total, 15 minutes per speaker, to for giving them a chance to talk about their work and show us how their journey has evolved. Uh, yeah, so I'll first turn to Osama. You have the floor now.
Thank you very much, Janvi. I think in the 10 minutes that you explained everything, you almost talked more profound things than we are going to talk about. But thank you very much to bring the more mundane realities of life that we got a chance to share with. In this discussion, and I've been watching in the invitation and also the explanation that you did and all that. You used very different kind of words which most of the conferences don't use. Intentions, niyat, जिसको बोलते हैं, which is like, and we the kind of value based life that we follow. We always say that you don't have to understand anything, just intention is right. If your intention is correct, right, profound, and not selfish and not things, that itself is enough. It doesn't matter what result it will produce, and that's a very profound word. And then you also use human dedication, signal of trust and values. And it's very, it's quite interesting that all these words are part of our business model, part of our work, part of our work that we do. And ever since we got, committed to this, also commitment, true commitment. These are very interesting words. Especially when you have gone through an era of journalism, an era of corporate work, an era of media, an era of technology development, and all this we have lived. So in the lives that I have had, the first life was looking for journalism job, which itself was 4 years, and no money, nothing, and and still not leaving. And everybody would ask that, why don't you join any job or something? And why are you so and you are getting rejected every day, and then you feel, are you a minority because of which you are rejected, or you don't know how to write is because of which you rejected? And then going on, and then ultimately joined or worked as a tech journalist, and without having any tech background, doing journalism of a few years, and then saying, oh, there is this new aura that is coming, which is everything is going online, and go online, World Wide Web, internet, and things like that. And then while you are going online, and the real life is offline. So it's very dramatic shift, and then you also join that bandwagon and you try to be online, and then at some point of time you realize that you are present everywhere, you are actually not there, and you are absent everywhere, you are actually there. It's very interesting. The modern technological online life is that you are absent where you are and you are present where you are not. And that's very interesting. That has been that also becomes in physical health also a problem, and it's a matter of attention. You are sitting with somebody but you're not attentive. You are attentive, and that becomes a habit, and that you call multitasking, and you're doing too many things together at some point, at any point of time. And then you thought that, okay, that's not enough. You did online, and you do lot of online, and without being techie, you also run a company to make others online. Why don't you run a company and do online? And then suddenly one day get into this huge deep thinking process, and then you realize that, oh my god, the time is being wasted. You are working for somebody else, and you are doing for somebody else's job or hype, and so on and so forth. And then you realize two, three things. And what I want to share is that what was that realization in 2002. And that was a realization that don't chase success or money or business. Number one. Number two, because everything that you are chasing is trying to acquire, and the nature is not made in such a way, because our life is created in such a way that you acquire degree, you acquire knowledge, you acquire building, you acquire house, you acquire a car, you acquire fame, everything is you are acquiring. So this whole approach of acquiring was not working out, and then we thought the life is more about giving. Whatever you give, and it's also circular. Whatever you give, if everybody keep on giving, it will take a circle and come back to you. So you don't need to acquire; it will come to you. And that couple, those two things, and the third is the world is not equal, and it's not equal because we have made it not equal. Everybody is born equal, but we are not lived equal. And the fourth realization is that inequality is also based on the availability and the flow of information that either empower people or disempower people, or the lack of it empower people or disempower people. And the final realization is that this human-made modern technology, which is digital, allows a seamless communication system or a flow of information system that can possibly make people equal. And if everybody is connected and all that finally came out to be flawed. But at that point of time, those were the five things of realization, and we thought that why don't we do a system where we go deep down the ground where most of the poor people live. And as soon as we reach to the poor people, we realize that the poor is extremely rich and the rich is extremely poor, both in terms of knowledge, and both in terms of dedication, both in terms of giving attitude, both in terms of even deep knowledge of anything. The more poor people you go, you will find that they are highly knowledgeable, they are extremely wisdom oriented. All they don't have is money, or which is an acquired asset. And every rich people you meet, you will find that they are insecure, they are possessive, they are acquisition oriented, and they're extremely poor in terms of giving attitude. So I realized that the poverty of the rich and the richness of poverty is mismatched, and then but I was feeling like the inner being. I always used to feel extremely happy when I am with the people at the ground in the villages and so-called poor people. Always, maybe because of the open air, maybe because of their openness, maybe because they are not prepared to talk, but they just talk what they know, and they are not unwelcome. Whenever you go, you meet them, the first thing is, would you like to have something, sit here and all that. And the more upper you keep on going, and you'll find, did you take appointment, how did you come, how did you knock the door, and so on and so forth. So this is very interesting. And everybody who is on the ground is a producer, and everybody who is on the top is a consumer. And consumer thinks they are knowledgeable, and actually the people who can produce is the highest level of knowledge. You cannot produce without having a knowledge. It's as simple as that. Whether it's a food or a farming or a wood or anything, the producer is the most knowledgeable person. But we created a system or a knowledge system or an information system or a class system in such a way that those who are producer are the poorest. Whether you are a farming producer, or you are a vegetable producer, or you are a work producer, or you are a weaver, or everybody who is a producer is poor. Everybody who is buying those things is almost like a rich. So this also was coming very heavy, and we started realizing we are doing, where we are taking the connectivity to them to so that they can tell their story, they can sell their products, they can take the information seamlessly and not really pushed information but pulled information, and so on and so forth. And then we're realizing that, oh my God, this is such a joy. Till then they didn't even know what were their rights. Till then they didn't know what was their assets. Till then they didn't know what was their goodness. Till then they didn't know that what they had is more valuable than what they were looking for. And this linkage started giving us a chance and of things that in this whole process of giving, you are getting enriched with their knowledge, with their wisdom, with their language, with their culture, with their tradition, with their craft, with their habits, with their ancient carry forward knowledge, and so on and so forth, right? And that's what it turned out, that the world started teaching us how to make a business model out of it, where this digital is there, but it's dependent on humans. Human is not dependent on digital. So the human in the loop is the natural. It's not like when you have invented AI, then you are looking at where is the human loop, or where is the loop to put it into the AI to make it more human. But here you don't want them to come to the technology or the communication system, but you take the communication and digital system to them, and you don't tell the technology to tell them to convert your habit and language and everything, but you acquire it the way you want to acquire it and for the purpose that you want to acquire it. So it's also very interestingly double checked, in the sense that they're not acquiring everything. And it also is very interesting is that larger mass consumption of anything has to be public infrastructure oriented, right? Access to information, access to knowledge, access to education, access to food, access to rights, access to entitlements, access to education, access to farming, anything that you do should be, public infrastructure oriented. But the world and capitalism is pushing the world towards individual acquisition, because that makes market business, so that individually, if you are a consumer, then there is more market, there is more production, there is more acquisition of data per head. But if you do use public infrastructure or public access points, then it's very interesting that it actually allows you to be with the community, and also when you go down, community is built and be there. When you ask them to get uprooted in aspiration of going to the urban areas or acquiring something, then you are breaking the community. And after breaking the community, then you are saying we are actually working in a very nice way of bringing community together. Underline in bracket the one that we broke in the last few centuries, and that's becomes a business model. So that means also that without community you can't do anything. Even if you work in the cities, you start building community. You target them as a community, and there in the village level they are community members. They all do things together. They do farming together. They go to the bazaar together. They go to heart together. They buy things together. They buy things for each other. They cost effective way and things like that, right? So it looked like that, whatever we are innovating, and I am very careful when I am saying innovating, because human beings are incapable of invention, because inventions are done. We are the best invention. The human machine or human is the best invention. It's the invention cannot be more powerful to invent another machine, which we are in race of, by the way. But that's the reason I say that everything is there. We are exploring and innovating, right? We are not really inventing. So whatever we are innovating and inventing, we are also trying to use that as soon as it is accepted by the masses, as a tool of power gain, class system, and all that, including information and knowledge, right? Those who acquire a lot of information, and they also become very powerful. Those who acquire a lot of information and knowledge become very powerful through the acquisition of money and financials and so on and so forth. So we are in that entire understanding that I mean, we as an organization, and me and my family and myself as that, there is not much to innovate and invent, but what is required is that the whole agenda is that how do we make more equitable society and community? We just be equal. There is nothing too much, and in this equitability, we are not really aspiring to become equal in absolute term, and we are not sleeping if they are not becoming equal, or we are not sleeping because they are not acquiring much and so on and so forth, but just be equal to the level where the people who control should not be extraordinarily more in power than the people who are subjects, and most of these people are remotely living and far away living and rural living. uh, and I would like to end by saying that India is a very typical landscape and a canvas of diversity and love in diversity, and the love in differentiation, and that comes through culture, the language, the wisdom, the practices, the thing which has not really been broken for centuries. For centuries, even if you compare the whole world in terms of colonization, you go that the countries who have been colonized, they speak one language, one kind of practice. But India is the only one that has been, even after colonization, we are still the same people who is speaking the typical those kind of language, even if not script oriented, but actually orally. And we are also naturally orally, we are still oral, highest number of oral country in the world, and therefore our knowledge and wisdom is very much in orality. And and all this is very enriching. And so our job is on a daily basis is that how do we bring the grassroots wisdom and knowledge and identity and their uniqueness to come forefront, and the world gets enriched by them, and they don't have to get enriched by the world. And that's how it becomes equal. And thankfully, just to give a number, we have mapped the country that there are more than 350 backward districts in the country out of 700 plus, And all these backward districts are basically the tribals, the Dalits, the Bahujans, the minorities, multilinguals, and they all are also overlapped with craft and diversity in language. And all this wisdom lies in this one, but unfortunately they are also poor. We try to work in those areas, and out of those areas we are in about 250 to 300 districts, and we are about 2,500 locations where we have these young ladies who are taking responsibility of being a public access points, phygital as a mode, and individual as a trust-based information access, and the rest of the community come to them with a lot of trust to access information of all kind and get benefited and also contribute in their revenues so that they are also having a social business, social community business. And it's increasing and increasing, and we are hoping to reach at least 100,000 villages in whatever number of years it will take, because our model is very much not for profit, and this model is very scientific, and I feel that every business should be not for profit, because there should not be any profit making venture, because even in not for profit there is always a margin to take care of yourselves, and the people who are into the pipeline of providing services or information or hard work. And the last thing is, now that a new technology has been innovated by the people, which is AI, which is actually a landmark shift, because so far we always innovated or brought out new things which assisted people. This is the first time human is saying that we have created something which is better than us. So from that perspective, I am taking it as a profound challenge, and that how can any be better than us? How can an artificial intelligence better than human intelligence? And it is also an ego issue, that the people who have innovated things that since I have made it, I am more intelligent than the other rest of the humans. Therefore, my machine is going to be better than the other human machines. And this otherization is more there, but maybe in the discussion we will talk about it, how we are dealing with the challenge of the advent of AI, how we are dealing with if it is an opportunity or not, or it is a final dent in our sustainability of life on Earth. Maybe we will discuss that in this one, but it's very much directly, it's a direct now. It's AI versus HI, and that's how I'm taking it. It will have many collateral damage before it becomes safe and adoptable, but let's talk about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that. I think a lot of us on the call are to a large extent like familiar with DES work, but like getting a snapshot of it and your whole personal journey of transformation also, I think that's really rich. And yeah, I would definitely come back to this. There's so many questions here. I'll now turn to Kavitha. The floor is yours. Would love to see your presentation.
Thank you, Janvi. Thank you, team. Osama, I think really you said something that pretty much encapsulates what I feel about all my work, that I feel enriched by all the places that I travel to. Not at all, never feel that I am in any way contributing to their life, to their society, to the way they view one another, to the way they view us, to the way they view the larger world. I have never felt that I am contributing anything to them. Of course, I do sometimes feel that their stories need to go to others who are not able to visit them. But the places that I go to, I feel so enriched. And that really, Osama, you said it so well, like literally half a sentence and pretty much encapsulates how I feel about all these last few years of my journalism when I've been focusing entirely on rural India. I'm going to share my screen. I will speak for about 15-17 minutes. Mostly, I'm just showing some photographs. And through the photographs, I want to explain what my work in the last few years has been focusing on and why I feel this has enriched me so greatly and why I'm doing it. I hope I'm able to share my screen without any trouble. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. I will share. Sorry. Okay, better? Is this clear?
You're still seeing the whole frame of the
Sorry, you're still seeing
presentation.
what?
Still seeing the whole Canva frame right now
Uh,
of the presentation.
it says my screen sharing is paused. Why is that?
Also, you can make it presentation mode so that the right.
That's what I've done. So I've done that, but I seem to have some trouble. So it's on presentation mode for me on my screen. It's not for you?
Not yet.
Might be a different window, like if it opened up in another window, maybe that's not screen sharing.
We can see
Maybe
your
so
mouse move,
Sorry?
Kavitha. So maybe if you just, we can see your mouse moving. So if you just present it again, maybe. Yeah.
Okay, present again. Is this better? It still
It,
says my screen sharing is paused.
it's good to go. I think we can work with this. Yeah.
You sure? Carry on?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. This is a photograph. This is a photograph that I took many, many years ago, maybe about 2014 or 2015. A well in Marathwada, which is the central part of Maharashtra, which is very arid, drought prone, and which is where my book is based. It's 8 districts of Maharashtra, which have an average rainfall of about 750 to 800 mm. That's about an annual rainfall. That's about as much rain as Mumbai gets in 3 days of heavy rain or 4 days of heavy rain, sometimes less. That's the entire annual seasonal rainfall. And this is a well, this is the last well of the last flush well of this village at the height of the, it was July and the rains hadn't yet come. And this was what the well looked like. There was barely any water. And this was, everyone in the village knows that this is the village, this is the well that is a marker of a terrible drought coming. This is just a comparison I want to make to say that, you know, there are some things that you can do sitting at home.
I don't think it's changing. Have you changed the slide?
I have changed the slide, yes.
Oh, it's not moving for us. I think you might just want to
So I think I should just give up presenting and just do it.
Yeah, now it's.
Should I move to PDF and should I just try doing that? Should I go to PDF and?
Yeah.
Is this better?
We're still seeing
No,
your
there's a problem with, actually there's a problem with sharing because it's just constantly saying that your screen sharing is paused. What I'm going to do.
I think you need to make her the admin.
No, she is. I think we'll just.
Maybe you can retry.
We've made you the co-host, Kavitha. Can you try again?
Yep. Share screen. Is that working now?
No, it's not. Nothing's appearing now.
Okay, I don't know what to do. Should I just carry on and give up the presentation?
If you can just email us the PDF real quick, if you can just,
yes,
then
okay.
maybe
yes.
Diksha or Janvi can share.
Yes.
Or even the Canva like view link works because one of us can just open us on
Okay,
our laptop.
I'm doing both right now. Apologies for this.
No issues at all.
Jahanvi, I've sent it to you. I've sent you a PDF with my first presentation. I'm making you editor, so you should get it now. And I'm also sharing the Canva link. share. Uh,
You're emailing it, right?
yes, I've emailed it to you. Did you get it? I've also invited you to share on my Canva account. So you have both of them. Any luck?
Yeah, I'll just share.
Okay, super.
Let me know if you can see my screen.
Okay, yeah, this works. You can just scroll down one by one. So we can move to the next page. Yeah, so this is just a very quick a quick way for me to say what is the stuff that I can do sitting at home, surfing the net, what I can find by doing online research, and what I can find when I go out there and speak to people, which I think technology is not yet poised to do, at least for a while. So we know that average landholding in India, this is not Maharashtra or Marathwada, this is average landholding in India. You can see how it has fallen by almost 50% since the 70s. And the average landholding for farmers in India is now, actually at this point, it's about 1 hectare, which is about 2 acres and a little more. This is suboptimal kind of land holding, and this much land does not let you be a profitable farmer. It's very difficult to be a profitable and sustainable farmer and live off the land and live off the money that you make as a farmer. If you're a family of 4 or 5, if you have 2 acres of land, it's actually not really enough at all. This is stuff that you can do sitting here. You just search on Google. There are plenty of verifiable resources, very easy to find out. On the other side is the kind of story that I like to tell. So I use this data, and this data is extremely relevant for me. 1.08 hectares of land for every family, every farming family in India is a very valuable number for me to have. But really the stories that I like to tell is the one on the right. This is a family of a patil. A patil in Maharashtra is an upper caste Maratha landowning family. In some villages, the patils are still considered the leaders of the village. And they've always been a landowning caste. And in pre-independence, they often owned hundreds of acres of land. And this gentleman, Satish Ghadge Patil, of a village that I visited repeatedly in the course between 2012 and 2020, they told me that they had elephants and horses in their family about 3 generations prior, that their forefathers were known to have walked around the village riding an elephant. And they'd had 200 acres or 250 acres of land at some point of time, and they'd lost all of that land to the land ceiling law. And then subsequently, they lost some more land because just farming changes, globalization comes in, they're not able to keep up. The kinds of people who are doing work that is productive is changing in the village, and so they've pretty much lost everything. And this gentleman, he now, from having owned horses and elephants, this gentleman now works for 7,000 or 8,000 rupees per month as a lineman. He's a BSNL lineman. This kind of story can only be hallucinated by AI, and even hallucinated, it cannot be done so well. There's just no way that this kind of account can come without having actually. Can you move to the next slide? Without actually going to this place. Heat stress again. So this is something that data is so easy to find about heat stress. And the kinds of impact that heat stress is having on workers today, and especially on farmers today. But I'll tell you a wonderful way that a sugarcane worker just 10 days ago told me about heat stress. She told me how she'd been sick and how the heat was getting to her so badly that she was mentally really fatigued by the heat. and she had skin problems, and she'd had headaches, and she'd had muscle aches because of working in the heat. She was dehydrated a lot. She'd required to she needed rest and holidays, which she couldn't take because she was a daily wager. But the thing that she told me that stayed with me and that will stay with anyone who would have heard it is she said, I don't want my child to ever know what heat is. She said that she doesn't want her child. She has 2 daughters, and she doesn't want them to ever take up sugarcane cutting as an occupation. And this thing just really stayed with me, that the heat is such an important factor of her working conditions that she felt she had to tell me that what she wants for her children is not money and success and riches and prosperity. What she wants for her child is to never know what that kind of heat fatigue is. Move to the next slide, please. So again, a lot of stories about farmer suicides are very easily available online. You can find out a lot of information about who are the people who have just taken their lives. Even if the English media is not reporting it, the regional media does tend to continue to report it. But some things they cannot be done unless you actually go there physically and meet some people. So on the right is a letter written by an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old boy to the then Chief Minister of Maharashtra. This was in 2023 or 24. This was that he wrote a letter to the then Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Eknath Shinde, just before Diwali, saying that I'm waiting for his father had committed suicide a few months previously, and he wrote this letter saying that I'm waiting for Baba to come back, but he's just not come back for so many weeks. And who's going to take me to the market to buy new clothes for Diwali? And the letter, it's a very poignant little note by a very small child who cannot understand and who cannot really come to terms with the loss that the family has just had. And he's posted a photograph of his father in the letter, and he genuinely hoped that the Chief Minister would be able to find a way to bring his father back. Move to the next slide, please. That's an aerial view of a cattle. It's a shelter, a cattle shelter for livestock during a terrible drought. This was in 2016, and one of the largest such, it's called Chara Chawni, which literally translates to fodder shelter or fodder camp. And so hundreds and thousands of families from nearby villages, they bring their livestock to these fodder camps where either the government or a non-profit organization is providing them free fodder for their cattle, because you need to keep your cattle alive during a difficult summer when you don't have water and you don't have fodder in your fields and in your home. You still need to keep your livestock alive because that is your asset. So you pretty much live the entire day or weeks until you're able to go back home with your livestock in these fodder camps. There's nothing in the camp but this a green shed for the shelter for the cattle, and some of the better fodder camps would offer electrical charging points, bhajans in the evening for people to stay occupied and for people to have some kind of spiritual release. They would also find a way to bring the milk market to the fodder camp, because some of these would be milk producing animals. So they would try and bring people back, bring people who bring the milk buyers, the purchasers, to the camp itself. The next slide, please. That's the bone dry Bendisura Dam. That's actually a dam. We walked right into the reservoir. It was absolutely bone dry. This was 2012. The next slide, please. You can move this one. This is actually a video of a group of people singing a song, but I don't need to use, yeah. And this is much more recent. This is sugarcane. This is the migration. This is the start of this year's migration for the sugarcane harvest. About 1 million people. The next one, the one with the vehicles. Yes, this is great. The one with the tractors moving, yes. So this is the start of the migration. So about 1 million people from Marathwada, from these 8 districts, they travel to other parts of Maharashtra itself and the rest of the country to cut cane. And they will migrate with their families. You can see in the photograph that they're carrying their pots and pans and their belongings and their little child. and they're packing everything, and they will live in a tent on the sugarcane farm, maybe 100, 400, 300 kilometers away from where they live. Some of them move from Marathwada to, say, Western Maharashtra. Western Maharashtra is flush with sugarcane. Large numbers of farmers in Western Maharashtra, they grow sugarcane. Also Karnataka and Uttar Pradesh. Karnataka, Tamil Nadu. A lot of the Marathwada workers tend to move to Karnataka because the payment is slightly higher in Karnataka and in South India now. And this is the beginning of the migration. And this 1 million people who will go, who will travel, will go with their family, which means they will take their children. Their children will be pulled out of school for those months. So from about post Dashera or Diwali, around October, November till March the next year, when the harvest is over, they will be living in the sugarcane fields. The next one, please. That's more of the same. It's you can see there's a child, and yeah, just next one. That's a view of what it's like to be cutting sugarcane in the field. It's hard labor, and it's actually quite difficult to do. It's quite difficult to do this work because you're cutting this cane with a machete. You're cutting it, you're hacking at the stalks, and then you're bundling it up and tying it, and then loading it onto a tractor. It's hard work, and this is what the workers of Marathwada do for about 6 months of the year, 4-5 months of the year, and they get paid an average of 1 lakh rupees for a couple working together. So a husband-wife couple will work together, and they will earn 1 lakh rupees as a lump sum paid in advance to them. The reason that so many of them take this work is that there's no other work that would pay them a lump sum money of that magnitude. Next one, please. That's a photograph of a recent. There was a cloud burst in October, November last year in 2025 that brought down in this village called Bhogalwadi in Majalgaon in Beed. It brought down this rain of stones from the hillside, and this is someone's farmland, which is the farmland has been destroyed by this carpet of stones and rocks and pebbles. Next one, please. The same guy's farm, another portion of the same guy's farm, his cotton is completely damaged. Next one, please. This was standing crop that was completely damaged. So that was Marathwada, which I've been visiting since 20. I actually started visiting Marathwada in 2004 when I was a very young reporter, and my chief reporter sent me to cover an election, and that's how I landed in Marathwada the first time. And I've been going and I'm like, even last week I was in Marathwada. It's just an area that I love to go, and I love to tell these stories because I feel enriched by them, and I enjoy myself doing it. And for no other reason, I don't really think I'm serving a larger purpose or anything. Nagarhole is something that since 2025, I've been feeling very, very close to for some reason. And I've been going back to Nagarhole. I've made about 3-4 visits in the last year or so. Not Nagarhole, the entire forest, but there's a story of one little village of 52 families, a hamlet that was located deep inside what is now a tiger reserve. These families are living there for generations. Their ancestors' gods are actually the names of some of these villages and regions. This is a PVTG community called the Jainu Kurba. They're a forest dwelling community. The Jain Kurba, basically honey collectors. That's what their traditional occupation has been. In the 70s, when India passed the wildlife laws and began to set up tiger reserves, people who were Adivasis who were living inside the forest reserves were being pushed out because we instituted this Western and very colonial kind of conservation, wildlife conservation, which viewed people inside protected areas as antithetical to conservation. And so people were moved out despite the fact that this had been their homes for generations. In the 70s, this particular village was among several hundred villages that were forcibly moved out. In those years, there was not yet a law regarding how they would be rehabilitated, what compensation they would get, etc. And they were just beaten out. And in the summer of 2025, this one village of 52 families, they decided to go back in as a protest. They went back into the tiger reserve, into deep inside the forest, and they have resettled there, and pretty much reoccupied what was their original forest land. Yes, can I take just 2 minutes and just run through some of these photos? And yes, we just very, very quickly run through these photos. Can you just show? So these are just you can just scroll. So these are just photos of these villages that I have, of this one village that I have been repeatedly going to. This is how they're living. They've been living like this for about a year now. It'll be a year in April. This was raining heavily the day I took these photographs, and they're continuing to eat their food as a community kitchen. Keep scrolling, please. Collecting rainwater. Yeah, just keep scrolling. That's their temple to their deity, which is the only structure that's kind of built in a very concrete kind of way. This is a photograph of people who have died after they were forced to leave their villages. Please move. These people died after they were forced to relocate into places like this. In some other village that had been forced out post 90s, and they had been given some rehabilitation. This is what their original homes look like. And the earlier structure was the one that they've been forced to live in now. This is a very recent protest they did a protest march for about 20 days, and they walked all through the forest to bring awareness to other forest dwelling communities in the region to say that, hey, we're coming back and we're reoccupying our land. So this is another Nagarhole is another area, another story of what's happening in rural India that I'm focusing on right now. And these are not stories that you can get in any other way but the old-fashioned shoe leather journalism, actually going there and walking around and meeting people and building trust over multiple visits. So this is 3 visits, photographs over 3 visits. Thank you. I'll stop there and then I can take any questions later.
Thank you so much for that. Sorry about the technical troubles, but I still think...
I'm sorry for that, yes.
No problem at all. But this was really rich and would love to sort of unpack this and hear more about your process now. So I think something that both of you mentioned was, Kavitha, you were talking about how it's just so enriching to go to these places actually and immerse yourself in these communities. Osama, you were also talking about the personal satisfaction, the happiness that you derive from it personally. And a lot of your careers are built around going to these places that are, first of all, very hard to reach, and then also staying with problems that are not as easy to solve, they're hard to solve. So just wanted to unpack this a little more. What is it that keeps you going back beyond what you've already mentioned? So I'll first turn to Osama. DAF's reach is enormous. You were also outlining the number of districts, number of states that you've been able to reach. But it started with just one community information center in Jharkhand. So couldn't you walk us through what that early phase of commitment looks like before you've established a model of success right now? What did you learn in those years that you could not have learned any other way? Osama, you're on mute. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yeah. Thank you for reading, our history here and there to figure out where we went first and things like that. Jharkhand is also my, place. I grew up in Ranchi, so maybe because of that we went back. Also, Jharkhand is extremely rich in terms of having many kind of indigenous communities, and therefore a lot of richness in the way they live and have attached to their places. But this whole idea of community information resource center as a public access point, as a space where you bring in various kind of technology which people can use collectively, taught us many things. It was just we got a money from Intel Foundation at that time just for one center, but we used the same money to bring in 3 centers actually. So we started with 2, one in Jharkhand and one in in a indigenous community in Baran district in Rajasthan. And the learning was that unless you have a community take full ownership of whatever intervention that is being created, it won't be sustainable. And that was a learning. So usually when you are working in this mode of getting funding, getting investment, it's one time and for some period of time and all that. So you need to figure out that how do you make it more hyper local and yet acceptable and yet run it. So even though the center was running locally, but there was a a sense of outside people and inside people kind of linkages. It's something like we were coming from town with a technology and with an idea which they accept that it is empowering, but it is not us, it is not ours or something like that. You could figure out. And by the time you think it's ours, you also struggle with this one, is that who will run it then? And if you run it, then are you paid for it? And then if you are not paid for it, then who will how will they sustain it, or how you'll convert the public access point or any system payable or use by paying and things like that. So there are a lot of learning on those things that came in between, which actually helped us to create models which is not top down but bottom up, and more circular, more adaptable, more coming from the people, and more owned by the people. So for the people, by the people, with the people kind of thing was a huge learning. So even if you're bringing technology, if you are not putting these three elements, it becomes very difficult. I mean, you can easily tick down that we educated so many, we did so much, all that you will have a positive tick. But the point is that when you go back, you say that we used to be here, but no more here, but those were some of the very strong things that we learned, and that helped. And initially our centers were not completely bottom up, it was more top down. And it was also not social business in terms of sustainability. And the best thing that we learned is that you don't need to teach. I remember, just give you one example, digital literacy, like how to run a computer, how to open a computer, how to, we had the whole curriculum, and we realized that in the span of 3 to 6 months, the kids and the community never opened those curriculum to learn, or our coordinators or the teachers never used that one because it was just not practical. So how did they learn? They learn with peer learning, learn with each other. They learned by sometimes as caricatures, in the sense that the keyboard, they didn't know ABCD, and they somebody opened YouTube or any website, and they remembered that these 5 later will open this Pandora's box, and this 6 later will open this kind of thing. If you click this, you will open this one, and then one will open, one will browse, one will type, one will. So this peer learning was very, very interesting. We usually found that whenever you go to one desk or any computer, one girl is holding the mouse, another girl is typing, the third one is putting the finger on the screen, ye niche karo, ye upar karo, and things like that. And this is not the one. And the fourth thing is that most of the learning happened through entertainment. By watching videos, by playing around, that also we learned that you need to give the equipment or the instrument or things in the hand of the people, and just forget it. Don't try to teach anything. In fact, they can teach you ultimately how you can what should be your curriculum, how it should be made, and things like that. And then, of course, all these are documented also in various time. I remember somebody has written that when I first time clicked the keyboard, I thought it will pass on a huge electricity current. So it took me a lot of courage. Somebody said that if I touch the screen, it will break in pieces, and things like that. In many of the quotes are that as a girl, I was not even allowed to touch any of the devices because it is man's fiefdom, or the brother's fiefdom, or a father's fiefdom, and things like that. And in all these things, there was a teaching, in COVID time, we learned that how people can innovate broadcasting on their own, in terms of using their own mic, converting into, attaching to Bluetooth, and then putting it into the cycle and using it as a mic and announcing the whole area and things like that. So there is a lot of learning that came. But the final one line learning is that never develop anything textually for curriculum. Always be audio, visual, oral, and photo oriented. Or the second is never be instructive. Learn by doing, not by instruction. Those were the things that we realized. And the third is that women are the best person to go for if you want to make any intervention in terms of trust, in terms of adaptability, in terms of authenticity, in terms of accountability, in terms of responsibility, all those things. And then there is a lot of research and PhDs people have done on our model at how digital and women and hyperlocal are the best combination to bring in equitable. So you fight patriarchy without really telling them on the face.
Thank you so much for that. And it really makes you think about what bottom up even means. And it's like a very iterative process and like doing something in a non-invasive, collaborative way. And I think that would be a very good point to also bring Kavitha in, because you were working with communities that you were not a direct part of, and that also involved a process of going back again and again to establish trust. So how long did it take before people truly spoke to you? And what did that process of learning, going back again and again, teach you about what authentic storytelling could mean?
Sure. Jahanvi, it's a great question. But really, for me, I wasn't going back in order to find out something that I felt people needed to know. I was going back repeatedly because I wanted to know more. So really, it goes to the heart of journalism as as a profession for storytelling. That either you're producing content, which is what a lot of our digital media influencers, etc., are doing, or you're actually looking for what is the truth. You're looking for what is real. And in my case, for me, going back in order to do something slowly, to ask people repeatedly about their lives, and to physically immerse myself there in their surroundings, what I felt was that there was a great deal more epistemic depth in doing it this way. This is not a form of knowledge that you can assemble secondhand, doing research online, making calls on the phone. It was really something that you had to do by going back, because I wanted to know more and I wanted to get to the heart of their realities. And what it taught me that I learned that when you go back a second time or a third time, that is when you begin to figure out what is the difference between what people are saying and what they actually mean. For example, a lot of the communities have a certain dark humor that you pretty much don't get the first time at all. The Jain Kurbas, for example, uh, I was going around their communities, around their village the first time, and one of the gentlemen said that a forest officer asked me, who are the Jain Kurbas? And I said that we are tree dwelling people, and we are like monkeys, and we live on the trees, and we come running down every time we have to find food, and then we go right back up. It took me a long time to understand that this kind of angry humor is really, there is a form of resistance for them. You laugh it off the first time as a joke, and then over a period of time, you realize that there is actually a deep-seated anger from where this dark humor arises. So what people are saying and what they really mean are two different things, and you can only get that when you go back a second and a third and a fourth time. There is no way, even if they trust you, because they are not going to explain their jokes to you, even if they trust you, it's up to you to go back a second, third, fourth time if you really want to understand. So there's a calibration of reality that happens when you go back. Another way that calibration happens is you understand what, for example, numbers look like in lived form. When I say 10 hectares of land, when I say 20 foot deep well, when I say a 20-foot deep well is now being deepened to 1,000 feet because there's no water, people are trying harder and harder to find water. Groundwater is depleting. When you go there and you look at it, and that's when you understand. You can't understand what is 1,000 feet by just writing 1,000 feet or or researching how many meters to a feet, how many feet to a meter, how many inches. You just don't get it unless you go there and take a look. So doing your desk research gives you a great deal of information. For example, you know that 11 crore toilets have been built in India under Swachh Bharat. But how many are in disuse is something that you only understand when you actually go. I have pictures from last visit, from the previous visit, from every visit. I have photographs of toilets that are not in use, that cannot be in use because there isn't enough water. So there's that calibration of reality that happens when you go back, and that immersive process is definitely part of that learning. Because reality is textured, and reality is kind of, there are bumpy surfaces. It's not so smooth as numbers tend to appear to suggest. Also, you recognize patterns over a period of time. What are the contradictions? What are the cycles that people's lives kind of revolve around? What is the cycle for harvest? What is the cycle for migration? What is the cycle to come back home? What is the cycle to earn? What is the cycle to be indebted? All of these power dynamics is something that you can't understand the first time you visit someone. One of my most recent stories from Marathwada is about two very young girls who came from Chhattisgarh as part of a group of people who are cutting sugarcane in Marathwada itself, actually. So what's happening right now is that because all of Marathwada's workers are looking for better paying sugarcane harvest work outside of Maharashtra or outside of Marathwada, Marathwada sugarcane, which has also grown tremendously in the last 15-20 years, despite being a very water scarce region, someone from outside has to come to cut cane here. And who are those people? Those who are much more deprived than the people from Marathwada who are going away. So there are even more deprived, even more marginalized communities, and they tend to be Adivasi communities from places like Chhattisgarh, from places like Vidarbha, some places like Madhya Pradesh, who are working in these almost bonded labor kind of situations on sugarcane farms, cutting cane for very, very, very small sums of money. Even 1 lakh rupees as an advance for 6 months of work or 5 months of work for a couple seems so wrong, right? And what if I tell you that the family that I just spoke to, these two little girls were raped because they're 10 and 12 or 10 and 13, and they were walking back after serving lunch to their family in the field, and they were coming back to the camp, and two men accosted them because they knew what their daily routines were, and they were accosted and they were raped. The first time I visited them, the family told me that they got help registering the FIR from their contractors. It took me 3 or 4 visits to find out that there is a power dynamic between the labor contractor and this family also. Particularly because they're an Adivasi family. Also, they're Gonds, they're again a PTG. They come from an extremely marginalized part of Chhattisgarh. And for them to speak up to me required the presence of the contractor. And when they finally realized that it was okay to speak to me without the contractor around, that is when I was able to get a conversation with them that didn't have constant surveillance. So those power dynamics are not things that you can possibly understand without going back, whether you're building trust with them, whether you're wanting to understand the complexity, whether you are able to render your own humility to them in a way that they accept and trust. Those are the essential differences that come by going back and doing it. Looking for answers that are coming through immersion.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting because it's really like putting into question like the whole process bit. I think both of you have been touching upon that inherent process of going back and what that means. And I really like the phrase of calibration of reality that you referred to. I think a really good space, and this will, I think, maybe my last question because I also want to really hear from the audience on this, is what would the future of such work look like, the kind of work that you do and you have sort of understood so deeply over time? Because like I mentioned before, that AI also needs this deep work to be able to refine its outputs also and reflect the reality of people it's claiming to serve. But the patience that's needed for such work seems to be thinning right now. That's the kind of imbalance actually that we're seeing. So in your opinion, it's a broad open question, like do you think that some sort of a balance, a system can work where both like this deep rooted work that's built on like a lot of engagement, presence, as well as like an AI world also where we can turn to it for support? Can both of these realities exist? How do you envision that going forward in your own work? Is there a way that it can move out of this sort? Right now, it feels very contradictory. Is there a way to get to some sort of balance? I'll first pose this question to Osama because I think a lot of your work has shown how information poverty, digital exclusion, these are structural problems also to begin with about access and other things, and not just a tech gap. So as AI starts to like mediate access to information, services, opportunities, what would an equitable coexistence look like with regards to my question for the communities that you are serving at the last mile? And how can we ensure that these systems are built on fairness, like you were saying, equality, and it reflects their realities as well?
Uh, uh, Listen, there is a fact of life is that whatever innovation, whatever invent, any technology, none of these are going to be used by
Osama,
all the
your
masses.
voice is breaking a little for us, your audio and video.
Yeah, I am on a network challenged mode.
You can keep your video off
Uh,
also
am I,
if that helps. Can
I,
you hear me?
is, is the, yeah, I can hear you. Are you,
Okay.
am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible. You can keep your video off if bandwidth is an issue. We can hear you fine now.
Is it good? Is it better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So what I'm saying is that, none of the technologies or innovations or inventions are always used by everyone. So there will always be a fact of life is that whatever we think is going to make a huge change and all that is never going to be used by all of them. I mean, even the wheel is not used by everyone. The vehicle is not used by everyone after centuries. You know, in a country like India, we have a mix of everything, and we have a mix of everything at in masses. There are enough people who walk today. There are enough people who are bullock cart today. There are enough people who live without any technology. There are enough people who live with a lot of technology. There are enough people who live with uh, technology and all. So we have all kind of community, we have all kind of system. But that's the point. The point is that anything that we bring in the name of efficiency, in the name of better life, in the name of better adaptability, is actually not. It's not necessity. It is only desirability. It is only the creation of a mindset or a kind of rule that you said, okay, this is the rule. So, for example, in a more mundane day, we say that we thought that digital will that will pass on all the information through digital, but we started making digital only possible. And if the people who are not digitally connected are excluded, right? You will never have this situation where you create one thing and you say that this is the only way. I mean, you cannot make a rule that you can only sleep on bed. People will sleep on floor. People will sleep sitting. People will sleep and whatever. Those kind of things. So anything that you invent. So even with AI, if your thinking is that it can give more efficiency, it can work thing. My question is that you cannot make it as a rule for everyone. And the second thing is that everything that we invent is a medium to the end. It's not the end. Medium cannot be the end. The process cannot be the purpose somewhere else. And I think if the purpose is somewhere else, the human frontier or the frontier of humanity should all trusted frontier. Technology cannot be a trusted frontier. You can establish story, you can have a machine do the storytelling, but I don't know if I'm being very abstract, but what I'm actually trying to say is that innovation and invention and technology and modernity can only be the medium and not the end, and should be that one, and that should not be made rule for adaptability or the higher adaptability, because that is also leading to consumerism and capitalism, and it should be made free. So you have invented, leave it free. Let people adapt if they can. If they cannot, don't this happen. Or things happen. And I will end by saying is that uh, very real, yeah, like NREGA, which is I cannot even take the new name of NREGA. It just cannot come on my lips. But basically, the laborers' law of having 100 days of labor. And government said that the only way you can do attendance is by technology. You have to mark your attendance. You have to know this one. Whereas the natural law is attendance taking is the employer's job. It's not the employee's job. So you break the entire natural system in the name of efficiency, and you can make it cool that everybody, because there is so much of exclusionary process into that one. Of technology. So what you are saying is technology is very good. It brings efficiency, it brings transparency, but you are just failing to say it also brings exclusion in a very highest number. By making it digital only policy, digital only rule, or the technology only rule, or your innovation only rule. So it cannot be only way. My highway can be the only highway. Um, so uh, so we are actually we are very much in understanding the organization task. Why technology is being hyped so much? It is the time to create better human agency, and that future business model is that my model is more human centric, more centric, more trust in emotional passion and identity of a human than machine is the future of business model, and the thing vis-a-vis the data driven, machine driven decision making process.
Thank you so much for that perspective and bringing that in. I think that's really important right now. I'll also turn to Kavitha now because AI has started affecting the journalism landscape as well. So just want to hear from you as someone, I think we've heard of how deeply committed and passionate you are about what you do. What do you see the future of this balance to be, and would love your take on this as well.
Well, for one thing, I'm certainly already using AI a great deal. I can use technology to do my job better, and I'm not one to shy away from it. So I use AI to do real-time translations. The people in Nagarhole speak Kannada, and I'm able to do Kannada, and they sometimes speak Jenu Nodi, which is one of their dialects. It's not even very close to. It's not a lot of Kannada speakers cannot understand Jenu Nodi. There are significant differences. So I'm able to use technology to do real-time translations, real-time transcriptions and translation happening real-time and simultaneously, note-taking in meetings, especially where I know that the notes are going to be for my record of the conversation, and I don't really need to put any emotional input into those notes. I use AI for all of these things. I use AI to look for typos in my text. One thing that I use AI for, I use ChatGPT every single story I write. I send it through ChatGPT to say, please look for double spaces, because my eyesight isn't what it used to be, and I can't spot the double spaces anymore. And I want to send out a perfectly clean copy. So I say, hey, this is a standard instruction that I have for every single thing I write. I run it through ChatGPT and say, look for all the double spaces. So yeah, I'm able to use technology a great deal. My productivity goes up 2x, 3x sometimes, and having that extra time lets you work on your deep reporting better. But having said that, I don't have any illuminating answers on what is going to be the future of AI for the kind of work that I'm doing, and whether and how this will this will change my storytelling in the future, or if there are others who take up similar kinds of storytelling in the future, how AI might impact their lives. I do not have an illuminating answer for that. But I can tell you one thing, that it's not technology, it's not AI alone that is kind of changing that's changing how journalism is being done, including rural journalism, immersive work, etc. There are some models that we have that we should be experimenting with, but no one's really thinking about it. The role of the journalist itself, very fundamentally speaking, as a journalist, my role is to be the relayer or like a conduit, the middle woman. And I think that never before in history has that role itself been put into question. Look at the number of YouTube channels that are run by people in rural India telling their stories themselves. Look at the number of Instagram channels that have much larger followings than I can ever hope to build. Much larger number of views for each of their videos. I follow a gentleman called Lakshman Chauhan. I invite you all to follow him on Instagram. He has 2.2 million followers. And he's a brick kiln worker. And over the last 2 years, I have seen how he was moved from he's a migrant worker at the brick kilns, and he has now managed to go back home to his village in Bihar, and he's building a little house for himself. This is riveting stuff. I cannot produce that stuff because I'm not living that life. He's living that life, and he's able to produce that content, and he's able to send it directly to the viewer. There's a thing called brick kiln reels. I didn't know this thing existed. You just search on Instagram for brick kiln reels, and you'll see on Insta that I watched one that has 3.5 or 3.1 or 3.2 million views. There now, so it's become such a popular thing that there's now digital influencers from the nearby towns, the small tier 2 towns, etc., who are taking their drones and going to the brick kilns to shoot footage of brick kilns, because they suddenly hit upon this idea that, hey, it looks like some brick kiln worker is getting 2 million views for his Insta reel, so let me see what I can do as well, because I live nearby. Let me go there with my drone and get some footage. I saw one that has, again, like some millions of views. I saw a woman in, just scrolling through these rural India videos on Instagram. I saw a woman wearing a sari. Her palla is on her head, and she's probably some kind of a digital creator. And she's sitting in a field with her husband in a farm with her husband, and her husband is sitting on the floor, and she's speaking in English, perfectly good English. And she's saying, I'm in my field today and we are irrigating our land today. And here's my husband, he's eating bati chokha, and I've served it to him on a banana leaf. That's it. That's the entire reel. It's 30 seconds, 1.4 million views. I cannot hope to get that kind of viewership in my entire life. So rural India is getting better and better at telling their own stories. So they're not just changing, technology is not just changing the structure of journalism. Technology is taking the journalist out of the picture entirely. And so now I'm thinking about what is it that my role is. I genuinely feel that my role should be to find a way for those stories to have more context and not to interfere in their storytelling process at all, but to find a way to channel it in a way that is contextual, and also to see what we can do to prevent a lot of that content also from being reduced to slop in the near future. That's it.
Thank you. That was a wonderful answer. Really enjoyed that. And thank you for bringing those perspectives in as well. Yeah, I'll now open the floor to questions in case we have any, or if there are any comments for the speakers. Otherwise, we can also move towards closing.
I actually have a question. So, Kavitha, I found what you just said super profound. My question is, do you think that you've come to this stance, right? What your role is really, is that, do you think there are others like you who are thinking about this? Do you think there needs to be a wider kind of discourse? And especially in this, both Osama and you've been working with these communities, giving them tools, telling the stories. What do you think needs to change in the discourse which makes sure that this is not neglected, like, especially because AI is not a gradual kind of introduction, it's a genuine inflection point. In some of the rooms that we are in, it seems that a lot of people do not at all, this is not on their radar at all, right? So what can be done to put this process on their radar to begin with?
Is that for me first, or should I take that first?
Please, and then I'd love for Osama to also comment on that.
Okay, so I really think that there are two things happening simultaneously in journalism that are of importance here at this moment. One is that it's not technology alone that has devalued journalism. It is journalism the way it has been practiced over the past several years that has devalued it. Just the fact that mainstream journalism has eroded to a point where it has completely lost trust of the public is something that is part of this larger discourse of people finding more trust in people being able to tell their stories themselves. And simultaneously, technology is allowing parts of India that couldn't tell their stories themselves to now be able to do so. As responsible, as someone who's in this space where I want those stories to find the largest possible audience, regardless of whether I'm part of that storytelling process at all, is a very specific question of how many of us in journalism want that. What is it that we are in journalism for? Um, is the difficult path worth taking? For me, it is. I think that honestly, it's a question of choice. It's not a question of what is going to be. It's not a question of what will emerge from what I produce, but really whether I want to take the step to question my own role. That would be a very, very small subset of journalists who want to question their own the role of the larger journalist community in storytelling as technology progresses further. And also the fact that, for example, the influencers who are able to take their drones and go into a rural area and then do the same kind of cheaply produced and massively scaled content. How will Lakshman Chauhan, for example, the guy who's been telling his story to me on Instagram for the last 2 years, negotiate with a system where somebody from, let's say, Raipur or Delhi visits his village and does the same stuff in 30 seconds, but using better technology? So I think that my role is going to be in the future to look at how we channel that storytelling and ensure that a lot more power stays with the people who are able to now tell their stories themselves. And I think that's a part of what journalists should be doing going forward. Is there a large enough number of journalists wanting to do that? No. Do I want to do that? Yes. Are there others who want to do that? Yes. Is there a way to do that? Yes. But it needs a great deal of thought. It needs a great deal of commitment. It needs a great deal of questioning oneself with a great deal of integrity and saying, what is my role here? And do I want to be in this space where the spotlight is not on me at all?
Thanks, Kavitha. Osama?
I don't know. I see things not in isolation, whether it's journalism as a practice or business as a practice or something. I see more in a bigger picture in terms of value system, in terms of the school of thought or the ecosystem in which we have grown in the last few decades and things like that. Because inventions and innovations and technologies and everything will keep coming in our lives. But the point is that how do we take it? It not depend on whether we are, this is right or wrong or whatever. It really depends on the value system, the framework, the way we have grown and things like that. I'll give you an example. When social media came, we all thought that, oh my God, now everybody is a content producer, right? Because all our life we were content consumers, right? There was one TV channel or one TV screen, everybody is watching, every content is being pushed, there is no interactivity. When internet came, interactivity came. When social media came, then everybody became producer. We thought now everybody is equal, and now we know that social media is the biggest evil on earth. Even in this equal world of giving equal rights for producing any kind of content, because that is also controlled by somebody else, by what content to get published, what should come in forward, and so on and so forth. And therefore if you see the isolation of where it improved, that we all grew as a consumer of everything. So we became also consumer of value system also, and the value system shifted, you know, so much so that we are funded by the most evil companies, CSR money, and we are very absolutely happy about, because that's a violation of value. It's not a violation of system, because system में तो ये है कि वो CSR का ही पैसा दे रहा है, you are using it and all that, right? And I had a real life example. Mark Zuckerberg came to us as a guest, and we took him to the village, and everybody thought that we are extremely friends with Facebook, and then he started saying something, and I wrote an op-ed which was against him, and then everybody was surprised. Everybody was surprised that how can you say that? Then we there was no relationship for many months and years, and then we were working together also, and then I literally took a value decision that no, we don't want to be funded or use anything from Facebook, because they intentionally did not stop bad content on their on their platform. The whole platformization business. Everybody thinks that platformization is the only way to solve all our problems, but that is also, according to me, is gradually going to create more slavery. So everybody is giving data on one platform, and the platform controls you. It's very interesting is that we have created a different kind of value system in the last 40-50 years, and those value systems is actually pushing technology as a primary driver of value systems, and then we all are consumers of value system. So yes, even though we are the equal content producers, but here we are working more on our time off screen or the time on screen. How can we have a digital detox time and things like that? And in rural areas, how you see the same youth with a mobile, ऐसे बैठ के घंटों वीडियो देख रहा है और कुछ नहीं कर रहा है, and basically using the money of his parents and watching YouTube and all that, and not really be useful to the family or earning money or taking responsibility. So the person is actually completely a consumer and not a producer. So and then जो प्रोड्यूसर है वो कंटेंट प्रोड्यूस कर रहा है, वो फिर लाइक्स के लिए और रील्स के लिए सर नीचे करके पैर ऊपर भी कर देगा, कुछ भी करेगा, एंड जस्ट टू गेट मैक्सिमम व्यूज एंड ऑल दैट. So वहां पर भी you will see that how the value system is actually guiding you and all that. So it's a deeper conversation and longer conversation, but what I'm actually trying to see is that in one line, the world is moving more as a consumer and less as a citizen. So the citizenship gives you an ability to, take responsibility and accountability. Consumerism does not.
Thank you. Back to you, Janvi, to wrap this up.
Yeah, I can see that there's one more question in the chat, but we are at time, so might not be able to take it. But if there are any quick thoughts about it, or if someone wants to respond in the chat, they're free to do that. But I will officially close this panel. This was wonderful. Thank you so much, Kavitha and Osama, for being here and sharing your raw, real insights about this. It was really wonderful to get a snapshot of your work like this in this format. And also thank you to everyone who joined this session. We will also be launching the Museum of Slop today, which is our digital archive documenting the different ways that slop is showing up in our lives and how it's affecting us. So if anyone is interested and wants to submit their own stories, they can do that as well. The link will be in the chat. I think, Osama, you have your hand up.
No, just reacting because I thought I will write, but it's interesting that you are saying Slop Museum. We have started a Museum of Digital Society in Pondi, which is a physical museum of digital stories and the grassroots stories in a visualized manner. So in the post event, maybe we can talk how maybe collaborate also to learn from each other and maybe enrich each other to do this. Yeah.
100%. Would love to do that, Osama.
Okay, thank you so much to everyone. We will start our next session at 2 p.m. on the same link. Yeah, so see you then.
Thank you
Thanks.
very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
Bye. Bye.
you. Bye bye.